So much about the.
What would you say if I turned into all the things you love to hate? And down my way comes crashing through the rotten beams and window panes.
Hey everybody, we are back. Oh, finally. It's been a while. Sorry about that, guys. Been really busy. But we are back for episode 26. Thank God. I think this is 26. I don't know. I have to check. But I'm pretty sure it's 26. I am glad to be back. And of course, I am, as always, your host, Dan Brosman. And we've been busy. You know, the kids back in school, so, started with that, and then, had some other stuff going on. Went to a con, Mo Game Con. We'll talk a little bit about that. That was last weekend. So much fun. But let's get into it. Kind of got some interesting topics here, I think. Want to talk about old school Superman Christopher Reeves compared to Henry Cavill's The Man of Steel. I'm a big movie fan, and I listen to other podcasts and watch other YouTube channels about movies, and I'm going to bring a little bit more of that into what I do here. So I kind of want to have that kind of conversation with myself here and talk about my feelings on both of them. I'm was born in 78, and that's when the Christopher Reeves movie came out. So that's what I know. We're going to talk about two trailers that dropped. The Hawkeye trailer, which is going to be a TV show, like Loki and the Falcon and Winter Soldier on Disney Plus. So I'm looking forward to that. And another trailer that dropped was the Matrix 4 trailer. They actually made one. They're actually, obviously the trailer's out, so they're pretty far along with that. We're going to put the nail in the coffin on this WADA thing, and that's going to take a whole 10 seconds because I'm done with any of that. I don't even know if it was WADA. It was auctions or whatever. Yeah. So I knew I wasn't going to talk about it, but this is going to be pretty much my, game over with that. Are video game consoles and games pre-NES worth playing and collecting? I hear this every now and again, and the only reason why I want to talk about this is because lately I've heard this mentioned twice within the last month. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just kind of go over this and let me tell you what I think about that. What if Sonic and Mario never existed? I was thinking about this the other day. These are the deep questions that go in my mind when I'm by myself. What if they didn't exist? What other characters would make a good mascot for Sega or Nintendo? And when I started really thinking about like all the different characters on there, I was like, I don't really know who would genuinely be a good mascot. But I think Nintendo has more options than Sega. So yeah. And then something that came to my attention yesterday is that there's going to be a new Super Mario Brothers movie. Who knew? So we're gonna talk about that. My first reaction to hearing that was like, ugh, because if you've seen the one from back in the day, yeah, so doesn't exactly get you excited. All right. So I am 43 years old, young, I should say. I'm 43 years young. So I was born in 1978. And part of me growing up, there was two things that I loved. I loved Star Wars, and I still love Star Wars most of the time. And I loved watching Superman, the original Christopher Reeves movie, and the second one with General Zod, which oddly enough was called Superman 2. So I am very set in my ways with a lot of things. If people that really know me know that I don't enjoy change, or I don't accept change all that well. I wish I did, but sometimes it really, really takes a lot for me to get there. And so when they, and this isn't the first time with Man of Steel that they have decided to redo, Superman, because they did that one with Brandon Routh in 2006, and it was okay. It was okay. Yeah. I mean, it was okay. That's all I could say about that. It wasn't a bad movie, but I don't know if it was necessarily a great movie. It was okay. But, now going forward here, and this is a little bit late too, because, I don't even think Henry Cavill is doing too much with the Superman character anymore. I know I said in a couple episodes ago that supposedly he had signed another contract to do more, but I don't really know what that means at this point. So I'm just going to say right now, I'm just assuming that he's not doing anything with it. And we'll see. But a lot of times, when you get guys my age or a little bit older talking about, the Henry Cavill Superman, it always goes back to, I feel like you're comparing it to the Christopher Reeves one, and not just in them playing Superman, because really I don't have a problem with either one playing Superman. I love both of them playing Superman. Christopher Reeves, in my mind, is Superman. Henry Cavill is not, but when I look at Henry Cavill playing Superman, I'm like, yeah, that's Superman. So, but Christopher Reeves will always be, first in my mind when it comes to that. It's more of the style of the movies. And, in 1978, it was a revolutionary movie because the special effects that this movie did, and I know that they do not hold up today. And let's just say the one in 78 and then the one that came out a couple years later, that was Superman 2 was on. Because, those are pretty much the same. We're not going to talk about Superman 3 with Richard Pryor, and we're definitely not going to talk about the fourth one. No. But anyway, so when I look at these movies, and I always hear this comparison, but what I didn't care for in Man of Steel was the way Krypton was portrayed. I always loved how, the old Krypton in the older movies was like this ice planet. And with the crystals, and everything seemed kind of, I don't know, very, very rigid and cold and and clean, as far as yeah, this is definitely a race of people who, are advanced. And, the way that storyline went where, that they didn't believe Jor-El about what was happening to the sun, that it was just merely a shift in the planet's orbit, and there was nothing to worry about. Because in both movies, Jor-El, Superman's father, had figured out, hey, our planet is on the brink of destruction here. And you guys need to know this. But in the Christopher Reeves one, the powers that be on Krypton are convinced that it's no big deal. It's just, a minor shift in the planet's orbit, which, in hindsight, I would think that there's never a minor shift in a planet's orbit, that's going to mess things up. Anyway, so it was kind of them disagreeing with what they thought was going to happen. Okay, so now you come to the Man of Steel. Now, this Krypton, I didn't care for because it was like a dirty, kind of harsher place to be. I don't know. It was almost like, and their technology was almost like steampunk kind of technology, and I was kind of like, yeah, okay. Yeah, but no. It almost sometimes felt like some of the graphics for like their computers and stuff was out of the Matrix or something. I don't know if that makes any sense. But in this one, the storyline goes, yeah, they know that their planet is dying because they harvested the core for energy, but what are they supposed to do? Which, look, I know you have to have a little bit of suspension of belief or disbelief or whatever it is when you're watching these movies, obviously. I mean, it's a Superman movie. It's a superhero movie. But like with them, because the storyline later on in the movie goes, well, over 100,000 years, we sent all these other ships out and we colonized all these other places, but then they just died off because our planet was dying. So we needed all the resources for our planet. And so like when their planet was dying, I was like, well, I don't understand. You have the technology to leave. You have the technology to terraform other planets. Why did you guys all just decide to stay on Krypton? I never understood that. I'm like, and his dad kind of gives, Jor-El kind of gives, in Man of Steel gives a, well, we were, why couldn't you and Mom come with me? Well, because we were a product of Krypton. It's like, but you weren't, because you were the one that had the first natural birth in years instead of having it be genetically predetermined for Superman. So why would that be? It's plot holes up the yin yang in that one. And it gets a little bit too deep. Where like the other Superman was just like, hey, here our stuff's going down. My parents know that the planet's gonna die, or they think it's gonna die. They send me off. Yeah, everybody was wrong except my father, and the planet blows up. This other one, it's like, yeah, we could leave. We all know the planet's dying, but we don't. So I don't get it. And if kids are listening, cover their ears, because when they catch Zod after he tries to take over Krypton in the Man of Steel, him and all his conspirators, they wrap him up in like these cocoons that look like flying dildos. Every time I watch it, I'm like, who designed this, number one? And no one said anything, but like, hey, maybe we should change this up just a little bit because they kind of look like flying dildos. No one ever said anything. And if you've never seen Man of Steel, go watch it. You're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, I wouldn't even have to say anything, and you'd be like, huh, those kind of look like dildos. Yeah, they do. They do. They look exactly like it. So, they really do. Oh my God. Every time I'm just like, good Lord, look at those things. And anyway, so I don't know really where I'm going with this, but I hear this from time to time, and I always feel like, even though I know Man of Steel is a good movie, I just don't have that connection like I did with the old school Christopher Reeves movie. And plus, I don't think the soundtrack's nearly as good. Because that John Williams, I almost said Robin Williams. Like, Robin Williams is a comedian. He doesn't compose music. John Williams, I mean, you can't beat him when it comes to soundtracks. I mean, that was his life. That's what's going to be written on his tombstone when it's all over. Here lies John Williams, the master of soundtracks. And to me, when you have that soundtrack that can really tie you in to the feeling of the movie and enhance it, and sometimes it gives you a lot of the feeling of the movie. I mean, look at Tim Burton with Danny Elfman with that Tim Burton Batman, the first one and the second one for that matter, but especially the first one. I mean, when you hear that soundtrack, when you hear that theme song, you know what movie that is. With the Superman, Man of Steel, not so much. It's almost just like a beat. I don't even know if there's an actual theme to that movie. And especially in a movie like that, like a superhero movie, I think that's important. Not necessarily, overly important, but it definitely, what I feel, it adds to it. So, yeah, I mean, God rest, Christopher Reeves, because he's, he will always be Superman. And even when I go back and watch those movies, it just takes me back, and I just love those movies. And they are dated. They are very much dated when it comes to these special effects. But, with the one thing that I didn't like with Man of Steel is, especially at the end when him and Zod are fighting, or any of them at the end, because it just feels like everybody was just overpowered, and the way they use special effects, it was just so over the top, and it almost takes that suspension of disbelief and makes it even harder. I want to feel, that's the one thing with the Christopher Reeve Superman, you could almost feel how it would have been to fly, because and God knows, if they would have had the CGI technology that they do now back then, I'm sure obviously it wouldn't have been the same. So they only did what they could do back then, but it just feels more real, more, with the practical effects. I think sometimes CGI goes so far to where it's supposed to take away that suspension of disbelief and help you with that, but sometimes it makes it even worse. At least in my eyes. And guys, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying either movie's good or bad. I was listening to people talk about, the DC franchise now and all the movies that have come. And I've heard how there's one guy in particular, John Campea, I follow on YouTube. Great channel. He also puts his channel on as a podcast, John Campea Show. Great show. And, I know how much he loves Man of Steel, and I just can't get there. I wish I could. But I just can't. So, well, anyway, I guess that's all I have to say about that. Yeah. Going forward here, 2 trailers that dropped. We got the Hawkeye trailer and the Matrix 4 trailer. And I'll be honest with you, back when I first heard that they were going to do a Hawkeye, well, I thought it was a movie, but evidently it's a show. And, I gotta be honest with you. I'm like, out of all the Avengers, why would I care? But I will say, after seeing the trailer, I'm pretty excited about it. It's all in the context and the way you do it, the feel of the shows, And I know there was a lot of people out there that thought the trailer didn't look all that great. It's a Hawkeye. He's got a bow and arrow. I mean, who cared about that adventure? It's like, yeah, but we're not talking about him going up against, Thanos here. We're talking about him, really, I don't know who he's going to be going up against necessarily. But it's awesome. I love the trailer. I love the feel that it had. Because it looks like, to me, it felt like a Christmas movie, a Die Hard Christmas movie, but in a show form. And that's the way it looks on there, because he finds somebody that, of course, if you haven't seen, Endgame, or it's been a while, that he becomes Ronin, which is, basically it's like, I think Japanese for some sort of assassin warrior, where he just, after his family got taken in the snap, he just goes off and starts, ministering his own justice with like this kick-ass samurai sword and just chops everybody up. So obviously when his family came back, he hung that up. But in this show, in the trailer, it shows that someone dressed as him. So, and he goes after this person and finds out it's a young girl. And then, whatever kind of storyline goes in after that. I'm not sure. But I also like it because his kids are in it. It's probably only for like the first episode, but it's the same actors and actresses. I love that. I love continuity. I can't tell you how much I love continuity. When you go and have a movie and then you do sequels and you have all the same actors and actresses come back to play those same characters, I love that. I hate it when they have somebody else play that same actor. It just takes me out of it. I don't know. Am I the only one? Am I the only one that feels like that? I love when it's the same people. Guys, I'm sorry if I'm sniffling here. I gotta just say, it's been super nice here. Went out and cut the grass today. My allergies have been killing me. So I'm going to try and edit out as much of the sniffling as I can. But if you hear me off to the side sniffling, I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, the Hawkeye trailer looks pretty good. Check it out, guys. I think it's going to be a good show. It's not going to be a blockbuster, but I think it's going to be a really good time. And I like Hawkeye. Yeah, Jeremy Renner. Great actor. So, Matrix 4 trailer drops. And I was surprised. Now, I'd heard that they were talking about making a Matrix 4, but I didn't know that they were actually making it. And obviously far enough along to where they have the trailer now, which is pretty far. And there was a part of me that's really excited for this, that's really interested. I'm like, oh my God, this is so great. But there's also that part of me that that's like, hey, remember Matrix 2 and 3? Especially 3? Yeah. Now, for the record, I thought Matrix 2 was okay, and I thought 3 sucked. And most of it had to do with the storyline. Matrix 1 is one of those movies that comes along maybe 2 or 3 times in your lifetime. As far as like the buzz about it and like the special effects, and all of a sudden a movie comes out every great once in a while that just blows your mind. And that was Matrix. And it may not seem that great today to the younger people, but when it first came out, trust me, everyone was talking about that thing. Everybody was talking about it. It was great. It still is great. It's a great, late 90s, early 2000s. I'm not really sure what year that came out. I'm pretty sure it was like 98, if I'm not mistaken, the first Matrix. And that, it totally has that era's sleek look with the techno music. Great, great movie. So, the trailer 4 drops, and, God love it. Keanu Reeves still in it, still looking young. Neil Patrick Harris looks like he was in it. He was a therapist. And I was like, okay, I like Neil Patrick Harris. And then I forgot to write her name down, but the actress that played Trinity, she's in it too. So it looks like it's her character as well that's in it. And then maybe a young Morpheus? I don't know. It was very confusing on what was going on. It looked like he was back in the Matrix and she was back in the Matrix. And maybe this guy that was a young Morpheus, because it wasn't Florence Fishburne. Lauren. Oh, God. Hold on. Let me get a little drink here. Hold on. Lawrence Fishburne, right? Right. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about, Morpheus. So I don't know if that's a different character or if it's just a younger version of him. I don't know. But once I got, like, the first 10 seconds passed and, me just, excited about this because I want it to be good, then the cynical part of me kicked in. It's like, yeah. I mean, 2 and 3, and now they're making a 4th, and this look-alike Morpheus guy here, and are you gonna take the blue and the red pill? It's like, okay. Do I think this movie's gonna be good? Look, if I'm a betting man, no, I do not think this thing's gonna be good. I don't. Because even franchises that had a great run, when time has passed, a lot of times coming back, in doing a, like a movie further on down the line, Star Wars, a lot of times it falls flat. Oh, and by the way, I think this is called Matrix 4 Resurrection. Boy, we haven't heard, a sequel to a franchise be named Resurrection ever before. So I'm like, great job on that title, guys. But, I mean, whatever. I mean, if the movie's great, I'm not going to care what it's called, to be honest with you. But yeah, check out the trailer. It looks interesting. I'm definitely going to see this movie. I don't know if I'm going to go to the movies to see it, but I will at some point see it. Do I think it's going to be good? No, I don't. But I don't know. I we'll see. I was just the way it ended, I was so dissatisfied. And it nothing to take away the people that did the Matrix movies, because God, making sequels to a overwhelmingly popular, original movie, that's got to be hard. I'm not going to tell you that it's not. I get it, but I mean, you guys should know what you're doing. That's why you do what you do. That's why I don't make movies, because I don't know what I'm doing. I just talk shit about it. So, yeah. Okay, let's put the nail in the coffin on this whole WADA thing and and these auctions. And this is kind of old news now. It's been a while since I came out with an episode here, but basically another YouTuber came out with a video. I can't remember the guy's name. This is how much I just want to put a nail in this thing. I just over and done with. He came out with a video talking about like the players that be with WADA and Heritage Auctions. WADA being the grading company and Heritage Auctions being the auction house, and what the relationships have and the players that be. And that basically the people that are buying these games for exorbitant amounts of money, millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars, they're just speculators. And and I've touched on this before. It's like something's not right here. I mean, even if you don't know anything about video game collecting, who's going to come in and actually believe that has that much money to spend? It's not going to take time to look into something and be like, hey, obviously these games aren't worth millions of dollars. And this is the speculators trying to make a market and bump, prices up. Make a market that's not there. And good luck to you guys. And there's been other auctions within the last week that have also sold for other amounts. And I don't care. It's, it's just speculators, people that aren't in the market, and people that collect other things. And it's all about money. It has nothing to do with whether or not these things are worth the money that they're worth. And they're not. Nowhere close. So, my only concern is that what is that going to do with the prices of games as far as me collecting? Me being middle class and not having millions of dollars to spend on games. And even if I did, I wouldn't. Yeah. And, it's funny because I went to GameCon last weekend, and obviously I was really curious to see what the prices were going to be for a lot of the games. And I even talked to some of the sellers there about, the auctions. And there was graded stuff there. They're in a couple booths. They had some of that WADA graded stuff, and which I think is garbage and dumb. But whatever. And, one of the guys brought it up to me, and I said, it's not we are in the gaming community. They are not. They just take this item and try to make a market for it. And that's a whole nother world. Okay. And that's a whole other people. It's not the people here. And what I realize is when I go in, these sellers aren't changing the prices because of that, because that has nothing to do with any of us. They're not gonna sell games for an exorbitant amount of money to anybody, because that's not the people that are coming to these things. And if they have a brick and mortar shop, that's not the people that are coming in the doors. It's not. So it really doesn't have anything to do with us. Were the prices more? Yes, yes, they definitely were. But not too bad. And I that had nothing to do with these auctions. It just had to do with the sign of the times, especially with the pandemic. And it still might be. I don't think it's a bubble, but I think the prices are going to be coming down, and I think they already started to come down a little bit more before the convention. So, yeah, that's the end of that. WATA and Heritage Auctions, good luck with all you guys and whoever's buying it and whatever, deal you're doing here. I don't care. None of us in the gaming community care, because it has nothing to do with us. Bye-bye. We talked about, how I hear every once in a while, the Superman, Christopher Reeves, and the Henry Cavill, and, how they compare to one another, and, what other, the likes and dislikes. But so it got me thinking too, and this is another thing that's come up within, and I always hear this next topic, every now and again, but I heard it, lately a couple more times, and I kind of want to talk about it, and it's, are video game consoles and games pre-NES worth playing or collecting for? And I'm talking about, the Atari 2600, the Intellivision, the Odyssey 2, and those are the ones that I really know. And, like the ColecoVision, I will be honest with you, I have no experience with the ColecoVision whatsoever. But I got to believe it's on the same plane as the other three that I just mentioned. And I do have experience with the other three. The first three. Excuse me. Anyway. And, I hear people talk about, it's just, why even bother? And I see both points. I understand both points. First of all, especially in the collecting community, the people that are actually buying the physical media, when it comes to collecting, you have that timeline of where people are in their lives that grew up with that stuff, and are they looking for it? And that's in a constant state of movement down the line. And what I mean by that is, at a certain point, you had the people that grew up with Atari that became in their 30s and in their 40s, and they really wanted those games, and they had nostalgia for it, and they're like, oh man, I had the 2600 back in the day, and the Intellivision back in the day, and you still have those guys out there. But I mean, as time ages on, they become less and less as far as the collectability of these games and systems. But at some point, the Atari and especially the Atari 2600 and the Intellivision systems in that era were popular. And then as time goes on, then you get, people that grew up with the NES, like me, and the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, and that came into its sweet spot and is very collectible. And I'm not saying that those aren't collectible now, because they very much still are. But, we are coming down the line to where we've seen the GameCube, and the people that grew up with the GameCube or the PlayStation or the the Nintendo 64. And maybe not so much the Nintendo 64, but definitely the PlayStation. So if you see what I'm saying here, I think it's like the collecting timeline. And as people get older, and the people that grew up with it become more middle-aged and have that extra money to spend, they want to go back and dip into a little bit of their childhood and experience that again. And that's when you see that stuff become the hot thing to collect for, or the popular thing. So when I hear, hey, are these things worth collecting for? Well, my answer to that would be, it is if you think it is to you. Because originally I was thinking, I don't know. I'm like, I wanted to say no right away because it's like, these things are so old and the graphics are so primitive. While I may like them, I don't see other people liking these things because they don't have the history like I do. But then I was like, well, maybe that's the answer to the question right there. Are they worth collecting? Are they worth playing? They are if it is to you. I don't think there's any... People feel like everything has to be black and white. There has to be like a finite amount of time when, hey, is it worth this or that? And I don't think it is. I mean, if there's somebody out there that's taking enjoyment out of this, then yeah, I guess it is worth collecting. Now, maybe as a whole, I mean, you have a generation coming up that is playing with graphics that back in my day and their age, I couldn't imagine in my wildest dreams. My son is growing up with the PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series X. And now we've seen what those things look like. And not even those, but, the generation before, the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. I couldn't imagine at his age, me at his age, thinking that that's what the graphics would look like one day. Because I was playing a television. And, if you played a television, you know that the graphics are slightly less than that. But it is still fun. Because there is a place for these games. And these consoles. Because it's history. Okay? It's history of the ups and downs of the market as far as the gaming market and where the do's and don'ts. And, you've seen the growing pains and what can go wrong with what happened with the crash with Atari 2600. And then how Nintendo tiptoed on eggshells and got us back there. Because, the NES takes a lot of slack. Not the NES, but Nintendo takes a lot of slack for how they operated with the NES. Them being the only ones that could do the production of the carts and limiting companies to the number of carts that could be produced every year. And having that, SNES or whatever it was, 10 lockout chip on there so other companies couldn't reproduce those carts and make their own. But a big part of that was because they were trying to be careful, because it could have been so easy to redo the mistakes of the Atari 2600. And I think overall, the gaming world has benefited from that, greatly. Now, you could disagree with me. Because Nintendo, Nintendo, they can be a little bit difficult. There's no doubt about it. And sometimes what Nintendo does is I don't understand. We've talked about this before. I scratch my head a lot with Nintendo. But, on the flip side, Nintendo does a lot of good things. And they do a lot of things right. So, I can't fault them for doing what they did. So, anyway, are they worth collecting for? Yeah, I think so. And, nowadays, we are at that point to where you can find all this stuff for dirt cheap. I mean, I see people on Marketplace trying to sell Atari 2600s with like 10 carts, and they think they're going to get like $150 for it. I'm like, you're out of your mind, Jack. I just went to Mo GameCon, and I could buy all this stuff for dirt cheap. Now, some of the, Atari computers and that weren't as popular. Yeah, now, we got to talk, because that's a little bit rarer and more collectible. But that's also a niche market as well. So, take it for whatever it is. Go ahead and collect it all. And even if you don't want to get the physical media, I mean, all of those games are really easy to emulate. What if Sonic and Mario never existed? Do you ever think about that? We take it for granted nowadays. I mean, everything Sega is Sonic. I mean, as far as what we see out of Sega anyway. Because Sega's just a shell of its former glory. It doesn't make consoles anymore. But Nintendo, I mean, Mario, jeez. Is there anything bigger than Mario out there when it comes to video game systems? And I started thinking the other day, these are the things that run through my mind. It's like, who is the better Superman? And what video game consoles should I collect? I mean, big, deep questions. And I was thinking, what if Sonic and Mario never existed? What would that be like? I mean, what if they didn't exist and these systems went forward and needed mascots? And I thought it was going to be a lot easier than what it was when I really tried to sit down and think about it. But after a minute there, I was like, you know what? I don't know. So this is what I came up with here, because it was, I'm tried to come up with characters that were just exclusive to those systems or those companies, I should say. So like for Sega, you have Restar, which is a good game. I mean, I don't know if Restar would really be the guy or whatever it was. You have Vector Man, which it's great games, but yeah, I don't know that Vector Man would be it. And then Alex Kidd, which, I mean, I just threw that on there because that's a Sega thing. But, God, those Alex Kidd games are so horrible. I'm sorry if people think different, but they are. They're just the worst. Well, they're not the worst, but they're bad. So with Sega, I mean, as far as just stuff that was exclusive to them, that's really all I could come off on the top of my head that would really be like maybe in the running to be a mascot. So with the Super Nintendo, with Nintendo, they have a lot more out there that I think might come into play. But here's what I came up with for them. So Mega Man, and I think Mega Man would be a really good one. And I was trying to think, and this was my thought process. I was like, well, is Mega Man as cool as Mario? And then I was thinking, wait, Mario's a plumber. So Mega Man is a robot cyborg that has a whole bunch of different weaponry. Yeah, I think he's pretty cool. So, Link. I think Link could definitely be, especially later on, the way Link changed over time. I definitely think that Link could have been a good one. And then I put Donkey Kong on there just because of like Donkey Kong Country. I think Donkey Kong could have made a decent, I think he could make a decent mascot, especially during the 16-bit era. So that's what I came up with as far as, what properties they own. I don't know if Nintendo actually owns Donkey Kong. Maybe. But I definitely know, Mega Man and Link, and then, Restar, Vector Man. Well, I mean, I don't know if Sega owns any of those either, but I mean, those were exclusive to that system, the Sega Genesis. But there's other characters out there like Rayman, and I don't know if any of you have ever played those games, but that's definitely I love all those games. The Rayman games. So that could definitely be it. I mean, if you really wanted to, Earthworm Jim, and you try to find someone, what would have character? What would have legs for the long haul? And then, and I say that, but then you're like, well, who the heck would have thought that a plumber would have become this massive mascot back in the day? Nobody. And if you're standing there raising your hand saying, yeah, I did. No, you didn't. Shut up, put your hand down, and sit back down. You did not. You liar. And it's funny because I really struggled. And, Sonic is my favorite mascot. And I like Mario. But, another mascot from another system that I love, the 3DO, was Gex. And he was kind of the unofficial mascot. And I know that game is on, I believe, the PlayStation as well. But I loved the attitude that guy had. And he was the pack-in game, I believe, for most of the time with the 3DO. And it was I don't want to say a great game, but it was a good game. It was a decent game and very enjoyable. And I loved his attitude. And I'm like, man, you could have gone so far with that. Look at Sony with Crash Bandicoot. Where has Crash Bandicoot been lately? Why isn't Sony bringing that guy? They need to bring him back out. Who didn't love those commercials that they did with that guy in the Bandicoot costume going to the parking lot across the street from the Nintendo headquarters with the loudspeaker going, "Hey, Plumber Boy, where you at, Plumber Boy?" I'm like, come on. That was the greatest. I mean, yeah, the games weren't the greatest, but the mascot was awesome. So, yeah, that's late at night, deep in my mind, I wonder, what if Sonic and Mario never existed? And then I ask my wife, and she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, never mind. That's what you're thinking about? Yeah, I mean, that and, maybe the cure for cancer. I don't know. I don't go that deep. Yeah. My hard drive crashes before I get that deep. So I must have missed this because evidently, word of this came out like a while ago. But they're going to make a new Mario Brothers movie. And it's going to be an animated movie, which is like, whew, okay. Which, because when you hear this, at least when I heard it, my first reaction was like, oh, God, are they really? They're really making another movie? I'm like, did you see the one that was in was it 90s, the early 90s? Oh, God. And if you haven't, I would say go and check it out just to see how bad it is. Don't do it. Don't do it because you really don't need to. So bad. So when I heard this, I was like, oh, God. I'm like, why now, after all this time, are they thinking about doing this? But then they said, well, it's going to be animated. I'm like, oh. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, with that, you can, I mean, that is vastly different. Let me tell you something. An animated movie and an animated movie adaptation of something is vastly different than a, real life adaptation, of something, especially a video game. At least I feel that way. These are all my opinions. But so, yeah, I mean, we don't really know anything about this other than the fact that now it's been announced because Nintendo had a that Nintendo Direct or whatever, and it was announced that, the head guy or whatever, I'm not going to try and say the names because I'm just going to butcher them. So out of respect, I'm just going to say, some guy that's very important with Nintendo mentioned that, hey, we're making this movie. And I was like, okay. And then they started saying, well, here's the people that are going to, voice the characters. And then this is always interesting because, they always get celebrities now. So here, let me do a rundown of like who is doing the voices for this movie. So first, for Mario, you'll have Chris Pratt. And my reaction to that was, I'm like, what? Chris Pratt as Mario? I don't see that, but okay, I mean, I don't know, like, how they figured that would be a good fit. But I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, I mean, I'm like, I like Chris Pratt. Okay. For Peach, you're going to have Anya Taylor Joy. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with her. If you look her up, see a picture, you'll recognize her right away. She's one of the most gorgeous women out there, doing her thing as far as being an actress. Very pretty, very pretty. Not that that has anything to do with anything, but. And for Bowser, you're going to have Jack Black, which is brilliant. Oh my God. I am a huge Jack Black fan. That guy I think he just runs on monsters and cocaine. That dude, I don't know where he gets his energy, especially for a big guy, but it's great. Either that or like when you see him on TV, that's it. And as soon as he's done with that, he just takes a nap. Because I know when I see him, I'm going to take a nap. Anyway, so then they're going to have Donkey Kong in it, and that's going to be voiced by Seth Rogen, which, awesome. I like Seth. Luigi is going to be Charlie Day, which I don't know if you're familiar with Charlie, but if we have fans here from Sunny in Philadelphia, Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Charlie Day was on that. He was also one of the scientists in the Pacific Rim movies. Love Charlie Day. And Toad is going to be voiced by Keegan-Michael Peele. Keegan-Michael Peele, which, I mean, geez. Who doesn't like that guy? I mean, funny as all get out. So, yeah, I mean, it looks promising. It sounds promising. I guess that's all there is to say about it. I mean, we really don't know anything other than the fact that, like, hey, we're making this movie. It's going to be animated, and here's the people that are going to do the voice acting. I have no idea, what the storyline's going to be, but I will say this. If you're going to compare this movie to the last Super Mario Brothers movie, it's going to be really hard to not be better than that movie, to say the least. It did not, raise the bar very high. That is for sure. So, yeah, I mean, that comes out I'm guessing it's going to come out around Christmas time, 2022. Because, I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing if they made the announcement before and I missed it, and now they're making the announcement again, and with everything, I guess they probably already started on some level making this movie. So it says 2022, so we'll see. Hopefully, it'll be something to take the kids to, All right, everybody. Well, that's where we're going to end it tonight. Man, it's been great getting back on the mic here. I'm sorry I haven't been keeping up on these episodes. It just got really busy. I had fallen behind on my YouTube channel a little bit, so I'm trying to get back in the swing of things here. And then I was out of town at Mo Game Con. Oh, yeah, I forgot. We were going to talk about Mo Game Con. It was so great to be back on the scene at a convention. It was just, I was so excited to just be there and just to be around other people because, everything's kind of reopened for the most part and then kind of closed up a little bit. But but still, there are people that I hadn't seen in forever because everybody that I see that I'm friends with in the community, they don't live that close. Everyone's about a 4-hour drive either which way. And, I love these people, but, I'm not making 4-hour drives. All of us have families and things to take care of. So, that's just usually not happening. But with the convention, everybody gets to be there, if they can get there. And it was great. It was great because usually I go down the night before, but this time it was my weekend to work. So I was going to have to call off a couple days. So I didn't want to make it a full 3. So I came down the day of, which is kind of rough a little bit because from where I'm at, St. Louis is about a little bit over 4 hours. Well, it's about the 4 hours because sometimes it can be a little bit under depending on the traffic. So, but I had to get up, fairly early and on the road. The thing starts at 10. So I was on the road bright and early, got there, and this was my first time having a YouTube channel. So I was a little nervous because I'm like, I got to get some footage here. And, like always, me being the noob, I never get enough footage. And I'm always like wishing that I had shot like maybe twice as much, and I got to start remembering to do that with everything that I do. Because when I make videos here in the basement and I don't shoot enough, yeah, I'm still here in the basement. So I can go back and shoot more. The convention's over. So it's not like I'm going to drive 4 hours back to be like, hey, can we do this again? And so I can get more, and I probably ended up having plenty, but I try to put at least a decent amount of effort into my videos. Whether or not that shows on the other end, I don't know. I think it does sometimes. Then you go back and watch it like a month later and you're like, oh my God, that was horrible. What am I doing? But anyway, it was a good time. The guys from Gaming Off the Grid were there. Wes and Robert and Brian, and they had, I didn't know, but they had their own table there, which was awesome. So hung out with them during the con a little bit. And then, there was Captain Algebra, which very awesome. And then you had Lacey and Tom from Do You Nerd. Very nice people. And then a couple other people that I'd never met before in person was Matt from Retro Wolf 88 and Peter from Waves and Games. So that was cool. I got to hang out with all of them because afterwards, a lot of them had rented a Airbnb together. And so went over there and, well, first of all, because I was like, well, what are you guys doing for dinner? And then Robert was like, okay, well, you got to get over here because I stayed somewhere else. So Robert's like, oh, you got to get over here, and we need help deciding what we're gonna get for dinner. So I'm like, okay. So I get there, and by the time I get there, they're like, oh, we decided. And I'm like, well, what are we doing? And they're like, well, we ordered 100 sliders. Oh my God. Oh, and it's like, oh my God, that's going to be such a rough day tomorrow. Alcohol and sliders is always good in that moment. Well, not always, but they're good. They're so good. I mean, I don't know about 100. Like I had I think like 10. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. That wrecked my stomach that next day. Can I tell you, I must have hit every rest area between St. Charles, Missouri, and Joliet, Illinois. I hit every single rest area. And every time it was an emergency. Oh, my God. Oh. The ride home took a little bit longer than I thought, and then what's funny is at a certain point I'm like, hey, I'm hungry, I could eat, so it's just like, and not to mention I had a huge headache, and I don't understand. I didn't drink that much, but I like to drink all that damn, craft beer. I just need to go back to like regular Miller Lights or something, I'm 43 right now. I'll get the New Balances. I'll tuck my shirt in, I'll get the, the phone clip for my belt. And I'm just going to go old man, go back with the Busch Lattes and the Miller Lights and that's it, So, but yeah, anyway, it was a great time. I can't wait to go back next year. But now the fun thing is most of these people are going to Milwaukee in a couple months on November 5th, 6th, and 7th for the Midwest Gaming Classic. And if you have never been to that and you're in the Midwest area, around Milwaukee, you should go. Totally go. It's a 2-day convention. There is stuff that goes on that Friday night, but it's not the full convention. The Saturday and Sunday is pretty much the full convention, and it's just such a great time. There's so many vendors there. There's so much stuff to see and do. If you are a gamer and you enjoy collecting video games, or not even collecting, but just playing video games, and you're close to Milwaukee, come on out, guys. It's a great time. So, yeah. that I'm very much looking forward to. And I will say I'm also looking forward to it because I got a nice hotel room in Milwaukee. I tried saving money when I went to St. Louis, and I stayed at I'm not going to say what chain it was, but it rhymes with Ray's Inn. Let's just say that. And it was one of those situations where as soon as I walked in, I knew it was a mistake. Like, well, I'll be honest with you. I knew it was a mistake before I even walked in the front door. So, yeah, let's just say I slept with my clothes on. And I put a towel from the bathroom around the pillow, and I was up early and out of there. Yeah, sometimes you get what you pay for, and I definitely got what I paid for. In my defense, people, I didn't know that it was, the seedy hotel that it was now, because a couple years ago, some of the other YouTubers had stayed there, and I went to their rooms, and, now, if you know what, chain I'm talking about, rhymes with Ray's Inn, then you know that, it's not necessarily the lap of luxury. I understand that. But the rooms were decently clean. They were very plain, but they were clean. This time, no, not at all. The shower was clean enough. Clean enough for me to get in and out of there. And, that one's on me. So I'm staying at a very nice Marriott in Milwaukee, right next to the convention hall or convention center. So that is nice. And I was like, I am so glad I did that. Because I was seriously contemplating trying to save $1 in Milwaukee too. And I am so glad that I decided not to. All right, guys, so that is where we're going to end it. This is our second ending, but this is the real one. I am so glad you guys decided to come and hang out with me and listen to me ramble on. It's so therapeutic for me just to unload all of this stuff on you guys. So, I guess down in the comments below, let me know which Superman do you guys like? And are you guys excited for the Hawkeye trailer or for the Hawkeye show in Matrix 4? I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of excited for both. And, feel free to comment on whatever else we talked about. All right, guys. Well, this is the end. I've had enough. It's time to go to bed. I am so tired. I love you all. Good night and goodbye.